Recently, our country celebrated annual Martin Luther King Day, and today on Midday, we're going to talk about Dr. King, particularly from the perspective of business. Someone who can give us some insight, a familiar guest to Midday. He's an author joining us from Houston, Texas, Thomas Fellows. Thomas, always good to have you with us. Tell us about this. You mentioned in your books, he's quoted quite a bit from a business standpoint. How so?
Yes, well, there's a quote of his that says, as long as there's poverty in the world, I'll never be rich. As long as diseases are rampant, I'll never be totally healthy. I'll never be what I ought to be until you are what you ought to be. And that's so true from a business standpoint. Bill McDermott, who's mentored me the last 10 years, did this even from an early age. If you read his book, Winner's Dream, when he sold newspapers, he would specifically put them in this place or that place because he wanted to be customer obsessed. And as a result, he retained a lot of his business and also got tips. So the extra utility you give and the extra effort is often worth it in the long run.
Right. Another quote that Dr. King made, I believe, is anybody can be great because anybody can serve. What do you think he meant by that, Thomas?
Well, from a business standpoint, I just started my own company called Commence AI. It's an AI consultancy, and I'm literally making reports for these prospects ahead of time. That's unheard of in the business perspective for, BCG, Bain, or McKinsey. But again, I want to go that extra mile because it worked for Bill McDermott, so surely it'll hopefully work for me.
Right. For our viewers, people are in all types of business. How can they emulate the life of Martin Luther King from a business standpoint, from many of his writings?
Well, you've got to look at business relationships like romantic relationships. In my first book, Forget Self-Help, Re-Examining the Golden Rule, I say, you never love somebody until you're willing to sacrifice for them. Without sacrifice, there can be no love. And again, Mark Benioff, who has been the CEO of Salesforce and the founder, his mantra for his company has always been customer obsessed, and it's certainly worked for him.
Is it fair to say here in 2025, again, another new year, that the words of Martin Luther King still resonate in present day?
Absolutely. And again, especially from a business standpoint, it's all about giving the advantage to the other person. When I got started in technology sales, I did not do the assumptive close, which means you're assuming that the person wants to take the next meeting or buy the product. I gave the advantage to the other person, and as a result, was the fastest one promoted to outside sales. And again, I closed an $8 million deal that originated off a cold call with a company with no previous revenue, because again, I gave the advantage to the other person. I said, hey, I'm not sure you need this, but, and he said, actually, we would like to take a meeting and look at the product, and we sold that product.
Again, author Thomas Fellows joining us from Houston. As always, Thomas, thank you very much for your insight.
Yes, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
You got it.